Welcome to today's Explainer. Right off the bat, we are jumping into what is absolutely one of astrology's deepest, most intensely introspective placements. We're talking about the moon in the 12th house. This specific placement really speaks to the absolute core of our private worlds. It's the bridge that connects our subconscious mind directly with those hidden, quiet realms of solitude and healing. So let's just dive right into it.
And really, this entire concept boils down to one massive, central question. Are you healing through solitude, or are you just hiding from the world? It's such a powerful distinction, and it completely sets the tone for everything we're going to unpack today. You see, this placement is completely defined by a profound, almost magnetic need for silence. But the actual motivation behind that silence, well, that changes everything. Are you stepping back to recharge your batteries, or are you stepping back to build a fortress? Let's break down exactly how this works.
Okay, Section 1. The deepest emotional placement.
When we look at the raw building blocks of this, we're essentially combining two very distinct energies. First, you take the highly vulnerable, deeply private inner world of the moon, which is all about your emotional needs and comfort. And then you place it directly into the 12th house, which is the realm of isolation, reflection, and spiritual transformation. It's an intense combination. Together, these elements create the astrological signature of someone who finds their ultimate, genuine peace away from constant noise. Their emotional strength literally grows in the silence.
Moving right into Section 2, a highly active inner world.
You know, people with the moon in the 12th house often look incredibly calm, maybe even a little distant to the outside world. But their internal reality, it's a completely different story. They experience feelings so much more deeply than they ever let on. They're essentially emotional sponges. They pick up on these tiny, subtle energy shifts in a room, which means crowded spaces or highly intense interactions can just become overwhelmingly exhausting for them really fast. And it is so crucial to understand this. When they take time alone, it's a strict necessity to get their emotional balance back. It's not because they just dislike people. It's simply because they need to empty out that massive emotional cup they just filled up while navigating the world.
And because the 12th house is so deeply wired into the subconscious mind, this whole internal processing system happens on a completely different frequency. Their intuition is off the charts. They just understand feelings without needing anyone to spell it out for them. In fact, they can often sense situations before events even happen. No way, right? But it's true. Their dreams and their imagination are highly active and often carry really important messages. So, to make sense of themselves and navigate this constant flood of incoming emotional data, they have to lean heavily on reflection, creativity, meditation, and spiritual practices.
Which brings us to Section 3, healing versus hiding.
There is a massive, fundamental difference between healthy solitude and just pure emotional withdrawal. On one side, a balanced 12th house moon uses solitude as this incredibly powerful source of strength. It's a dedicated time to process experiences, release built-up stress, and reconnect with who they really are. And the best part? They return to the world with so much more compassion and emotional understanding, their sensitivity becomes a literal gift. But on the flip side, when it's unbalanced, that solitude just becomes a place to hide. Past disappointments or hidden fears can push them to just disconnect entirely. They might think they're just protecting their peace, but actually, scratch that. What they're unknowingly doing is creating this vast emotional distance just to protect old wounds.
So how does this affect the people around them? Let's look at Section 4, navigating complex relationships.
Listen, if there is one critical takeaway for anyone navigating this placement, it is this right here. Vulnerability does not always create pain. The absolute hardest challenge for someone with an unbalanced 12th house moon is unlearning that deep-seated fear of intimacy. Sometimes letting trusted people get closer isn't a threat to their peace. It's actually a vital, necessary part of their healing journey. They really have to learn that they don't have to process every single heavy, dark emotion entirely alone.
Fundamentally, relationships can be super complex here. These folks deeply crave real emotional connection, but at the exact same time, they are terrified of being misunderstood. They absolutely must have partners and friends who respect their profound need for personal space, while also offering total, unconditional emotional safety. Superficial, surface-level relationships, yeah, they reject those completely. They are looking for honesty, genuine acceptance, and real depth. But the amazing payoff here is that when they finally do feel secure with someone, their compassion and their loyalty become unparalleled, lifelong strengths.
Now for our final stop, Section 5, the journey to inner peace.
Look, getting comfortable with this kind of highly sensitive nature, it takes real time, and it evolves significantly over the course of a person's life.
In their early years, this intense need for solitude is almost always misunderstood, even by the person themselves. It honestly just feels like loneliness. But as they move into a growth phase, it transforms into this incredible journey toward true emotional awareness and spiritual balance. And by later life, they finally realize that being alone absolutely does not mean being disconnected. The silence completely shifts from being a place of isolation into this rich, beautiful well of wisdom, creativity, and self-discovery. Which perfectly brings us to this incredibly powerful summarizing thought. Solitude is not an absence of connection. It is a return to the self. Having a moon in the 12th house does not mean someone is just doomed to be a recluse who hides from society forever. Not at all. It represents a deeply personal journey toward inner balance. The absolute highest expression of this placement is finding true, unshakable understanding within yourself, so you can then go out and engage with the world from a place of totally grounded strength.
And that leaves us right back where we started, but hopefully with a whole lot more clarity. So I'll ask you again, will you let silence become a place of understanding to make your sensitive heart stronger, wiser, and more peaceful? Or is it going to remain a place of hiding? It's a pretty profound question to chew on, whether you have this placement yourself or you just want to better understand the deeply empathetic, quiet souls in your own life. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I really hope this gave you some valuable insight into the incredible, hidden strength of the inner world. Catch you next time.